You may know that a long time ago, Minecraft didn't have any biomes. In like certain versions of alpha and earlier, the world was just like all one big environment, right? It had the neon green grass, and then there were clumps of trees around, and that was it. You explored the world, and it all kind of just looked like that. But then in Alpha 1.2, the Halloween update, we got the first biomes in the game. Nowadays we have, all sorts of variety of biomes, all sorts of cool biomes that all kind of look different. But this original biome system was a lot different. There was a lot less variety. There was a lot smaller number of biomes, and a lot of them kind of just like looked similar. It was hard to tell them apart sometimes. But I find these early biomes actually really interesting. And big surprise because I like this version, but I like these old biomes, and I think they're almost in a way like more advanced than some of the later iterations of the biome system that we got. You do have some biomes that we would recognize today, such as the forest biome and the desert biome. Those ones are pretty much unchanged, but we also had some biomes that were actually unique to these old versions that we don't even have today, like the rainforest and the shrubland. There are 10 biomes total in this version, excluding some unused biomes. And one of the really interesting things to me is that this original very early biome system actually had like a temperature and rainfall map. The game would generate these hidden values for the entire world. And with those combined, the game determined what biome was going to be there. So like an area with really low temperature and low rainfall would be like a tundra. An area with low rainfall and high temperature would be a desert. And then with high temperature and high rainfall, you get the rainforest. And then between that, there's a small variety of biomes in there. And you might think that's not that impressive because, I mean, Minecraft today generates a bunch of stuff like temperature to determine where biomes are going to go and to make sure they kind of go together smoothly. But for a long while after these versions, the biome system was not like this. The game would seemingly just place biomes wherever, and you would get this weird like world where you would have like, taigas right next to deserts. So I really admire this early biome system. Despite being so simple, it's actually pretty cool. You have the foresty biomes, mostly the higher rainfall biomes on this chart. These are the most common biomes. When you're in a beta world, you're going to be seeing the forest biomes a lot. To the point that I wouldn't blame someone for booting up beta Minecraft and thinking that the entire world is forest biome, because depending on where you spawn, you might just see forests around you. And there might even be different biomes around, but you might not notice it because the differences between different biomes in these versions can sometimes be really subtle, and sometimes they blend together really well. This is kind of exacerbated by the fact that when you press F3, if you're playing vanilla, it doesn't actually tell you which biome you're in. So you could be walking around and not even notice that you're walking through multiple different biomes. Like, look at this clip of me walking through the forest, right? I walk down through some trees, and it pretty much all looks the same, right? So this is probably all the same biome. It's just a forest biome. But it's not. I actually walked through 3 different biomes in this single clip. But you can really barely tell the difference if you're just playing casually and not really paying attention. There is the main forest, which has a huge area on the temperature and rainfall map, which kind of explains why it's such a common biome to find in this version. Off to the side, we have the seasonal forest, which is kind of interesting. It's very difficult to recognize the seasonal forest. It's very, very similar to the forest. The main difference, really, there are no birch trees, apparently, that spawn in the seasonal forest. So that's kind of like a weird, just little variation of the forest that we have. And that's actually also another biome that doesn't exist in modern versions. If you go all the way up to the top of the rainfall values, you will get, though, the rainforest. This is a biome that's similar to the forest, but is a little more distinct and is kind of a lot easier to find because the rainforest is the only biome where ferns will spawn in this version. It also has a nice lush green color, and it has a higher chance of spawning large oak trees, which kind of makes sense. It's a rainforest, it gets a lot of rain. It's supposed to have these big dense canopies, so it has more large oak trees. We also have a lot of these biomes that are kind of like grassland biomes. You have the plains, which are a warm biome that's just above the desert. And these are actually pretty similar to the plains we have today. They're just these open areas, not really any trees, but they have a lot of tall grass in them. You also have the savanna and the shrubland. Now, there may be slight differences in the savanna and shrubland, but I think generally they're pretty similar. The main difference is that the savanna is actually lower on the rainfall axis, so The grass color is more of like this dry olive green as compared to the shrubland, which can have usually a bit, brighter or more vibrant green colors. What's interesting though is that these two grassland biomes are kind of like these intermediate biomes. They actually start from the end of the desert and then go all the way to the tundra and the taiga. So depending on what area of the world you're in, these biomes could have that sort of like dull olive green looking grass, or they could also have the deeper sort of like green blue hue that you get around the colder biomes if they're next to like a snowy area. And that brings me to another thing that I think is really interesting about these biomes. The grass and the foliage color is actually not dependent on the biome. It's something that's generated independently of the biome based on the temperature and the rainfall. Now, since biomes are also generated based on that, there is like a correlation. Like each biome has kind of a range of grass colors it can have, but it is a range. It's not just one single grass color that you're going to find throughout the whole biome. So you could walk from one end of a forest to the other, and even though you're all in the same biome, you can see actually the grass color on the ground changing. And it's not just because it's a border between different biomes. It's just how the foliage colors are generated in this version. And that, combined with the fact that a lot of these biomes are kind of similar looking, really does help these blend together. And it really makes it even harder to tell when you're in one biome as compared to the other. The last sort of like open grassland type biome here is the swampland. This is kind of a weird one. It's actually sort of like nestled within the forest's parameters. And it's pretty much similar to like the shrubland or the savanna, except just because, it's on a different place on the rainfall and temperature graph. It basically has different grass colors. I have this tiny piece of swampland that I found in my world. It was the only one that I could find, and yeah, it's just like nothing there. It's just open. There's no trees, there's no grass. It's just kind of right next to the water. Definitely not similar to the swamps that we know today. But I don't know, there's something kind of that I enjoy about these minimalist biomes. I just think it could make kind of cool areas in the world, like little clearings that break up the forests that you find so commonly in beta worlds. In terms of desert biomes, there's just one, the desert. This is the only biome that it generates, sand and cactuses and dead bushes. And I mean, honestly, like I said, it's still pretty much the same desert that we know today. And then, of course, the last group of biomes would be the snowy ones. There's just two, the tundra and the taiga. There's no non-snowy taiga, you just have the taiga with snow. And of course, these generate for the areas with the lowest temperatures in the world. So that's it. There were just 10 biomes originally. And another thing that makes them kind of blend together sometimes is that they're very small. Like, look at this tiny patch of savanna that I found just in the middle of a desert. They're literally just patches of grass. They're a few blocks wide. Another thing that makes it so interesting is that the biomes do not determine the world height. That was actually a thing in Minecraft for the longest time. Caves and cliffs changed that, I'm pretty sure. So for the most part, the world height is generated independently of biomes, and then biomes are selected afterwards. But it was actually the same way back then. The terrain height was just generated by itself, and then the biomes were placed regardless of that. So you can find, big variances in the terrain height in any biome, really. You can find flatlands, you can find mountains, pretty much anything in any sort of terrain height. And I've known that for a while, that the terrain height is separate from the biomes. And that's kind of where I left it for a while, that, the terrain height could just be anything for any biome. But I've actually just learned that the terrain height can correlate with the biome, because the terrain height will take into account the rainfall value. Apparently, the smaller the rainfall value, the more the world will tend towards flat areas. It's not a guarantee, but it will tend towards these flatter areas. And I feel I feel vindicated to myself because for the longest time, I thought that certain biomes like tundras, had a higher chance of like flatter terrain just because that's what I observed. But then I kind of thought that I was crazy because then I learned that terrain height was separate. I don't know. I'm getting into like a debate I had with myself, but the point is, yes, if a terrain has lower rainfall, such as the tundras and the deserts, it will actually tend towards flatter areas, which you can see as you play the game. And that must also be why mountains in beta seem to almost always have foresty biomes, which of course are the higher rainfall biomes. Apparently, the higher the rainfall, the more the world will tend towards more mountains and hills. So the biome does not determine the height, but there is a correlation there a little bit. And I find that so interesting. There's so many little like nuances and subtleties to the world generation here. And I've realized that it's really part of why I like the beta world generation so much. You know, at first I thought the biomes were just bland, but there is something kind of charming about these simple biomes that can be small and they blend together, and there's variance inside of each biome because the foliage color can actually change within a biome based on the temperature and rainfall. But I mean, think about it. If you look at a small area, you could have multiple different biomes. You could have like 4 or 5. Maybe there's like a little patch of grass because there's a plains, and then you go up a hill and there's a little clump of trees because it's a forest, and then it dives down into shrubland again. And it makes even like these small little areas in your beta world or in these old versions actually quite interesting, and they can have a lot of different, you know, variants in how they look. Whereas, you know, with some of the later biome systems, it's kind of like once you've seen a biome, you've seen the entire biome everywhere in the world, right? There's a uniform distribution of trees. There's a uniform distribution of tall grass, whatever, right? And the foliage color is all the same once you're in, you know, a certain biome. And it just doesn't work that way with the original biomes. And I actually find that really interesting. And I like the way it looks. I think it looks cool. Real quick side note that I almost forgot to include for this video. The oceans in this version, unlike later versions, they're not a biome. They're just a terrain feature that just gets generated as the terrain's being generated, basically. Same thing with beaches. They were not proper biomes. They were just sort of features, terrain features that generated, you know, whenever a landmass met an ocean. And there were 2 types of beaches back in this version. There were sand beaches and gravel beaches. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now hold on. Are these really the earliest biomes in Minecraft? Is there something I'm missing here? Well, there's maybe something, depending on who you ask. See, in those alpha versions, remember I was talking about, where there's really no biome, it's all just the same world. There actually is a feature, I believe called winter mode, which I'm sure a lot of you know about. There was, I think, a 1 in 4 chance whenever you create a world in certain alpha versions for the world to be a snowy world. Now, as far as I know, this would be like the same terrain generation, the same distribution of trees, but it would be snowing all the time, and there would actually be less passive mob spawning, I guess, to simulate, you know, this cold, harsh winter world. It would also be harder to find like sugarcane, just because there would be less exposed water. Most of the water would be turned to ice, and sugarcane, of course, needs an open water source block next to it in order to grow. So it was these slightly harder worlds, and very cozy because it would constantly be snowing in these worlds. And it's not quite a biome because it's like your world is either like this or not, but it does play around with the biome ideas, you know, where certain biomes are colder, you know, they have snow and snowfall. And I have to just say, I really actually like this feature from Alpha. It's very just sort of charming to me. The fact that you can't choose to have a winter world, that it's just like a 1 in 4 chance when you make a world. It just reminds me of like that's the kind of stuff that I love from video games. It's so like sort of whimsical in a way. And I don't know, it just makes me think of someone like playing the game for the first time back then and just like starting a world and having it be a snowy world without realizing that that's even an option, you know? Like, whoa, I got a snowy world, you know? Just like one of those fun little things, fun little whimsical things that games have sometimes. Another interesting thing with these, though, is that you can actually, using an MBT editor, you can change a normal world, a normal alpha world, to a snowy world just by changing the value. And then once you go back into the world, snow will start falling and snow layers will start collecting on the ground. So it's kind of cool. You can almost simulate like the seasons changing, you know? Like first you were in summer in your world and now it's winter. The only thing is, if you try to change a snowy world back to a normal world, I don't think the snow layers disappear. I was just playing around with this and it looked like the snow layers weren't melting. So be careful with that. You know, if you change to a winter world, you might be stuck with a winter world permanently. But wait, is there actually a version of Biomes even earlier than this? Kind of. I mean, you may know that in dev, there was a feature where you could really customize the world you were making, and you can choose the world theme. And these different themes included the normal island world, which was just like a normal Minecraft, you know, grassy, tree-y world. But you could also choose paradise, which was, I guess, sort of supposed to be like this tropical beach. It had more sand as far as I know. It had different arrangement of trees, more flowers, and it was always daytime. You had the woods world type, which was kind of overcast and had a lot of trees. And then finally you had the hell world type, which is less of a biome and more of kind of like a weird nether prototype. But I do think these could be seen as like a proto biome sort of thing, like very early on, because it would have been a while. It would have been a lot of versions before biomes were added. But yeah, I just think this first biome system was really interesting because it kind of, when you look at it, it almost like blends what was nice about the alpha, you know, the world that kind of is very like homogeneous. It all kind of looks the same as you travel around, and it blends the best parts of that, in my opinion, with a little bit of variety that you get from biomes. You know, you have your foresty, grassy areas, and then you can also find like some snowy areas and some desert areas. But overall, the world looks pretty similar, and there's a great variation in like terrain, height, and all these different things, these little variables that biomes can have. But now, because this is a modern YouTube video, I am going to rank the original biomes on a tier list. Now, I just think that would be kind of fun. You know, I've been playing beta for a while, and so I have some opinions here. So first off, starting off strong with the rainforest, I'm gonna have to remember what each one of these is, because some of them are the difference is so subtle, but I think I can remember. But let's start with the rainforest here. This is definitely the rainforest because, again, the rainforest is quite easy to spot. It's the only biome that has ferns, and it has this very lush green grass. It's not super common. It's a little bit rare. It's definitely not as common as the standard forest. So this is like a very sought after biome. You know, people love the big trees. The ferns are super cool. The lush grass is very desirable. So this has to be S tier. I mean, if anything's going to be S tier, I think it has to be the rainforest biome. One of my favorite biomes, possibly my favorite biome in beta Minecraft. Next, we have the seasonal forest. It's really like I said, it's kind of hard to tell this biome apart from the normal forest sometimes. And it's kind of just the same, and it doesn't really spawn that often. And it's not like the rainforest where like I'm looking for one. It's kind of just something that's there, and it adds like a very subtle bit of variety to forests in this version. So I'm gonna put this at like C tier. It's kind of cool because I like forests, but in the presence of the other two forest biomes, it's just not super remarkable, I guess. All right, here we have the normal forest. Again, I'm pretty sure this is like the most common biome you're gonna find. It's iconic. It has birch trees. It has wolves. You can see the little wolf there in the thumbnail. And I just, you know, I feel like it's such an iconic like Minecraft biome. I always loved it. I love the color forest even to this day. Yeah, I think it's a staple of the game. Provides you with a lot of wood. It's probably going to be A tier. It's not quite as good as the rainforest, so it's not going to be an S, but it's A tier. It's A tier easily. Swamp. Swamps are kind of weird. They're just kind of rare and kind of featureless, and they're kind of just the same as shrublands. So I'll put them in B tier. You know, like the grass color is kind of nice, and they break up. You know, they break up the woods a little. They add some clearings to the woods. So I'll put them in B tier. You know, they're kind of cool. They're just not really. I don't know. they're swamplands. And we have an extremely similar biome. I mean, these are like almost twin brothers here. The shrubland, which I think I find more often than the swampland, honestly. I see the shrubland a lot. It usually has like more of a deeper, slightly greener green color than something like the savanna. So I'll put it in B tier. You know, I like again, it's like the swampland. I like the openness of it. Kind of breaks up the terrain, and it's decent. Sometimes it actually can have little clumps of trees and like clumps of grass and stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. Savanna. Man, I think out of all of these, this has to be the one that goes in D tier. If anything's going to go in D tier, because it's basically just the swampland and the shrubland, but the grass color is worse. It has this, I mean, you can see in the thumbnail there, it has this sort of like olive dull grass color. That's like a yellow green or brown green grass color that I just don't really like. I like the brighter colors. I like how vibrant old Minecraft is, and this just goes against that completely. It offends me. It offends my eyes. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just this biome that's like kind of cool sometimes to walk through, you know. But it's never something I've ever been inspired to build in, or I've ever really wanted to like stay in for a long time. So yeah, it's got to be D tier. It's got to be the weakest biome here. Plains. Now plains are actually, I think, really cool. On the temperature map, they're just above deserts, so they're often found among some of these warmer, drier biomes. But you know, they do get more rainfall, so they can be a sort of a lusher green color. And I quite like how they're these kind of just like, you know, just like plains in later versions. They're kind of just these big open areas with a lot of tall grass. And some people don't like the tall grass in old Minecraft. They think it doesn't fit. They prefer the versions without the tall grass. I'm just kind of used to it, and I think it can kind of look nice sometimes, especially in this version where there's usually not as much tall grass. It's kind of cool to happen upon a field with a bunch of it. So I don't know. I might put these in A tier. They're really pleasant to me. I enjoy finding plains sometimes. It's a cool little biome sometimes to find. Okay, desert. Okay, so deserts are cool because they, you know, they're the only desert biome in this version. You know, they have a bunch of sand. If you want to mine sand, they're perfect. If you want to build any sort of deserty build, this is basically your only option. They give you cactuses, which you can farm for green dye. They have dead bushes, which are completely pointless, but they're kind of cool. And they're the only place you can find dead bushes. And, you know, they do often give you that sort of flat area because they are a lower rainfall biome. And sometimes it's cool to find like just a big wide expanse. The downside is I often find that deserts are pretty hard to find. And that may be because if you look at the temperature and rainfall chart, they're actually like, they're really not a very big biome. They only occupy like a little sliver in the corner. So maybe that's why I can't find big deserts very often. I struggle to find big deserts, and I want one, you know, just in case I ever want to like build a big desert thing or just walk through a giant desert. And also, you know, even though the desert's cool, it does kind of limit you in terms of your builds. You know, certain builds just are not going to fit the sandy desert aesthetic. So I think this is probably a good B tier biome. It has its uses, but it's not like amazing like the rainforest, you know. All right, next is the taiga. I mean, taigas are pretty cool. These are actually it's the only place in the game, the only biome where you can find spruce trees. And I love spruce trees. I think they're really cool. They're one of my favorite types of trees in real life. And yeah, it's just a cool feeling walking through a snowy forest, you know? So I think these are pretty solid A tier. The next snowy biome is the little oh my god, I can't think of the word. Tundra. It's the tundra. This is another one of those things that's kind of just been like a staple, and it hasn't really changed too much over the years. It's usually like wide open snowy plains. I mean, I have found tundras which are just like massive flat areas, and I like that feeling. Again, like the desert, I just like that feeling of standing in a super flat expanse. Sometimes I don't want the whole world to look like that, but sometimes it's a really cool, just like stark feeling. You know, snowy biomes are solid. It's very cozy when it starts snowing and you're like inside your little Minecraft build. And yeah, I like the tundras. I kind of don't want to put it in A because it was right, you know, it's right next to the taiga, and then it feels like just I'm being lazy here. But I think they fit in A. They're both very solid biomes. And yeah, that's the last part of this video. Did I stretch this video out enough? Did I have enough content? No, I just thought it'd be fun to rank these, and I think this is a proper ranking. Savannas are exactly where they belong. I don't know, some people might actually like savannas, like building in savannas. I have no idea. Let me know. But yeah, the rainforest is king. This looks pretty much about right. All right, well, that's Minecraft's original biomes explained. I hope you enjoyed. Big thanks to all the people who went over to my Patreon to actually vote on this video idea. There was a vote for all the different video ideas that I was having, and this one won. So it's very cool. It was a very fun, I know it was a kind of random idea, but I thought it was a very fun video to make, because I really just enjoy beta Minecraft's terrain generation, and this is I've realized a really big part of why I enjoy it is this old biome system, which is so kind of unique and interesting. If you want to vote in future exclusive polls, you want to see some bonus content, including the little podcast that I have, the Guildhall meeting, please feel free to go check out the Patreon. It really helps the channel. It helps me feed my little Minecraft pigs. It helps me feed my villagers. I don't know what I'm saying. But big thanks to the newest members of my guild, Sorrel, Declan, Gelfly, and Old Boy. Huge thank you to you for joining. It really does help me out, and you are very epic. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I hope it was fun, and yeah, I'll see you around.